Welcome to the Historical Society's May meeting. Our first order of business is for Cindy Rogers to come up front, and she's going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
There's one over here. It's supposed to be on that side.
Yeah, you're on.
Y'all ready? Stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. You each received a copy of the minutes, and hopefully you've had a chance to read them. And if there are no corrections, we need to approve them as read. Do we have a motion? Tom French, okay. Do we have a second? Susan Patterson. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Thank you. Our minutes will be approved as read. Thank you very much. Have you all noticed the t-shirts we're all wearing? Everybody wearing a Garland County Historical Society t-shirt. Please stand up. Please stand up. Thank you. So everybody can see them. These have been designed by Tansel Stow and Richard Stevens through our Art Plus History project. And we need a new design. And we hope that you or someone you know is an artist and you can make a new design and you can submit it by next Thursday, the Historical Society. There was an article in the paper, 2 weeks ago? And we hope that by next Thursday, we'll have lots of entries. We have entry forms here, and we have them there. We'll display the artwork at the Historical Society. You can come by and vote on your favorite, and we'll tally the votes on June the 2nd. And by the middle of June, we hope to have a new History Plus Art artist and a new t-shirt. Hot Springs, everyone loves our history here in Hot Springs, and now you can wear it. Now Liz Robbins, our executive director, is going to come up here and she's going to introduce our speaker.
Thank you for being here today. And I'm going to make my annual May announcement or reminder. Please remember that our program is going on a hiatus during the summer months. So our next program will be in September. And also, if you haven't walked over here and seen the wonderful photos that Leon and Donna brought today, please take a look at these before you leave today. Now, we're very happy to welcome today a longtime friend of the Society, John Archibald. John has uncovered, rescued, and made known an incredible amount of history as a researcher, a writer, and as the editor and publisher of Ouachita Life magazine. And I can't imagine how many miles he has driven and walked and hiked and slogged as he's explored the places and the people of this region. An award-winning journalist with a passion for history, not to mention a passion for growing sorghum and restoring old cars and restoring old printing presses. He's a treasure himself. So it's very appropriate that today he helps us explore the life and legacy of Dallas Sutton. And in the process, he'll be introducing two very special guests, Leon and Donna Sutton. John?
You all hear me okay without the microphone?
No. At least John's on time.
Good morning. Good afternoon, excuse me. I'm John Archibald, and I appreciate that more than you know. I'm a friend, or at least I say I am, of Leon and Donna Sutton. And I'm going to tell you a story here about a family member of theirs, Dallas Sutton. Your motion.
Keep it up closer.
Up close like this? Is that better?
Yes.
Come on over here, I got a bridge to sell you. Okay, good, good. So in Bear, which is a town a little bit southwest of here in this county, Historically, geographically, it's a mountainous town, and it begins in the human concept as a pioneer village. It was somewhat known for iron ore mining by those local residents. And then in the war between the states, there was a skirmish of record near Bear, as the citizens endured that conflict, just like those across the state. And after the war, in the post-war era, there was talk at one point in time of a railroad that would come fairly close to Bear, as a shipping magnate in the upper Midwest states decided to invest in a silver mining venture in a town west of Bear called Silver. It's still a crossroads today on Highway 270. But the railroad didn't come because the silver didn't look promising. Yet Bear then, soon after that experience, became the largest gold boom town in Arkansas. And it witnessed a population grow almost within a year of 1,000. There were reports that within another year, 10,000 people would be living in Bear, excuse me. And it was quite likely that instead of talking today in the city of Hot Springs about Bear, Arkansas, we might be in the city of Bear, Arkansas, talking about that hot water over in that, what's that place? Hot Springs. It didn't turn out that way. Unlike most boom towns, Bear didn't die, it rediscovered itself. There was plentiful forest that abounded around the city. And as Arkansans found out, the soil types that were friendly to cotton were also very friendly to a less labor-intensive crop called timber. And timber became much more profitable than cotton, which is why today we see so many timber farms where 150 years ago there were cotton plantations. So Bear rediscovered itself as a lumber town with a few sawmills. And it was into this town, getting into the early 20th century, that a family by the last name of Bump had lived and been chairmakers. And it was into the fourth year of a war that consumed the entire world in a house that still stands in Bear on a March day, that the cries of a little baby were heard for the first time in a room. And into this world came the life of Dallas Oliver Bump. Dallas had two other sisters. One was Lloyd, a baby sister who had died, but then the other one was Ola, a sister of his, who, although she suffered from polio in her youth, not uncommon in those era, in that day, she later went on to become a school teacher in Valley Schools and what we now call Lake Hamilton Public Schools. So in this experience of living in this town that had a lumber reputation to it, Dallas Bump saw some very interesting things as he was a boy. One story that's often told is that he would ride with his grandmother in her horse-drawn buggy. She was a midwife, and so he would join her in the services of being a midwife, and very likely saw the birthing of many of the people with whom he would do business and associate with years later. He was also schooled in Hot Springs. He liked to hang out with his buddies and go to town in Hot Springs. There are a few stories about that too, but we don't have time to tell them all, but they're all pretty funny. And a very interesting point about Dallas is that he went to 8th grade one year, and then he went to 8th grade again, and then he went through 8th grade a third year, because he was trying to avoid working in his father Fred's chair factory. So let's talk about this chair factory. How did this begin? What we have here are the craftsmen and craftswomen descendants of fine French craftsmanship in chair making. That is what their ancestors did in France. And a particular woman learned their art and their skill, and she passed that skill on to her son, and his name was Philander Bump. And he immigrated to the United States and chose to settle in Arkansas, in Bear, and to the best of the family's knowledge, about the year 1870 is when he began his chair-making enterprise. Keeping in mind that there were other chair makers in the state and in the locale, but none came with their credentials. And it was through this family that Philander's father-in-law, Wiley Rouse, also was descended from a chair-making family. So this is a very fortunate turn of events, two families that respect the same excellent craftsmanship. Philander passed the knowledge of this down to his son, Fred, and then Della Owenbaum, and from Fred to Dallas and Freddie, and from Dallas and Amelia to Leon and Donna, who are here in the front row here. And they learned the art of building one chair at a time. It's a family process that has never been mechanized to build more than one at a time. With no glue, no screws, no pegs. It's all handmade. But let's go back to the story about Dallas, because that's who we're talking about today. Dallas and Amelia met in school, in the various schools. Amelia Orlbump is also a story unto herself. Her oral family came from the Mayberry Springs area. She was one of 13 children, 3 of whom died in infancy. And she has one surviving sister, Betty Jean, who may be watching this in California. Are we sure? We're not sure.
I sent her the link.
No, but she just celebrated her 89th birthday.
Right.
And the family, such as it was, with Fred Brump, running the store and the enterprise, rather, the factory. Do we call it a factory? What should we call it?
I would call it a factory, it ain't mass production, or I guess factory.
More of a shop then, thank you.
Yeah.
The story is that in the 20s and 30s, they were working 14-hour days, 6 days a week. And that's some high activity if we think about it. I found one account that said that in the 1920s, they were manufacturing 12 dozen chairs a month. Keep in mind, this is a family process. This is very much today we would call it a cottage industry. And their method was, interestingly, quite simple, but very effective. They would drive through the countryside to different towns, but in particular hardware stores. And they would go to the hardware store and they would say, we have chairs for sale. There was some exchange that went on. And then they would regularly visit the hardware stores. And their primary product were the dining room chairs that were quite popular, but they would also sell rocking chairs. We were talking, and Leon recalled that the dining chairs in the 1920s sold for 35 cents a piece. And the rocking chairs were quite expensive. Those sold for $3. With World War II, we see a change in the Bump family in that Dallas left Arkansas for California. He went to work for the Richard Kaiser shipyard and was there a number of years through the war. And then after the war, returned to Bear. Fred had continued the family enterprise all throughout these years. But then in the 1950s, again in search of better jobs, Dallas left to work for Caterpillar in Joliet, and he was there for 10 years. I have a family connection to Joliet, and I remember talking with him once, and he said, yes, I was there for 10 years. They were cold, that was enough. This is a topic also that needs to be researched by one of your willing writers for a future Garland County record. And that is the fact that in Arkansas, there was a mass exodus in the 1950s and 60s of talent. There simply weren't enough jobs to support the local audience. We're very much in love with Hot Springs and all the great things that happen here, but the fact of the matter is when you get outside the cities, the rural economy could not support people. Thank you. This experience of leaving Arkansas also affected Leon Sutton, who had moved up to Chicago, where Leon was born. And keep in mind that the family unit, such as it existed in Arkansas, continued into the other locations where families would relocate. To touch on this topic briefly, as a family member might move to California to go work in a shipyard, kinfolk would write kinfolk and say, there are jobs here, come. And then the rest of the family would leave to go there. I've had several interviews over the years with families from Arkansas that would go to places like Arizona, to Texas, to California, to Illinois, to Indiana. And this was the common way, we often wonder, how did they find out these jobs? One member of the family went somewhere, they wrote kinfolk back home and said, send everybody else. And that's how the moves happened. And in time too, families take care of each other. And within the family, it was decided that Dallas and Amelia would care for their nephew Leon and his brother and sister and move back to Arkansas. And that was the family decision. And so that's how Leon has the distinction of knowing Dallas not only as his uncle, but also somewhat as his father. And Leon here, and I would encourage you afterwards to ask him the stories of growing up in the cabin, the log house that's still there on the road that goes up into Bear. Ask him which room was his, which window was his bedroom. He can tell you stories about building fires in the morning on winter days. And it was into this family that once the family relocated to Arkansas, life somewhat resumed the way they knew it. Dallas became a rural mail carrier in Royal. He also continued to be very active with the Masons. He was known for his humor and his dry wit. And if I had to describe it to you, he would listen to you intently, almost, I wouldn't say sternly, but with a great deal of focus. And then all of a sudden he'd pop out some humorous dry wit that made you realize he was thinking and listening to you the whole time. And he was just like that, very likable. And history, he read a lot of history, a lot of books, a lot of articles. How many of y'all here knew Marcus Phillips, cartographer with the city engineering department? He was a great friend of Marcus Phillips. Spent many hours on the porch of the bump house there talking about history, times in Bear, old times in Hot Springs. And Dallas was quite a man of many talents. He enjoyed cutting wood as much as he enjoyed gardening, and he would love to tell you his latest tips on gardening. And I have to put in a word too for Donna Sutton here, who's seated up front. He was a big fan of his birthday parties because she would make his favorite pineapple upside down cake or fruit cocktail cake. You can tell a lot about a person by what they like for their birthdays. Amelia also enjoyed making muscadine jam, and so that's a bit of the family environment. Dallas and Amelia, really, for the two were one, Dallas and Amelia became somewhat well-known nationally because of an effort by the Smithsonian Institution about 1983 to reach out to them and ask them to come to Washington, D.C. and demonstrate their art of chair making. And this was a massive hit. They have several photos, some of which are over here in the albums. I highly encourage you to please look through these albums. There is a letter in the family that was received sometime after the visit, and it expressed that the chairs that they had brought with them were bargained for by various members of the Smithsonian to rather high prices so that these people could own these chairs in their houses. It doesn't take much of looking at the quality to see what you have here in front of you. There's another funny story I want to tell you that involves Governor Winthrop Rockefeller. And it is said that at the time that Governor Rockefeller sent in the state police, I think in '67, a little disclaimer, my neighbor when I lived here in town was Harry Columbus, who was the manager of the Southern Club, and I heard his account of what he thought of that raid. I'll just let you know he wasn't happy about it, even 30 years later. But Dallas's account is very interesting. He said that at the time that he had not met Rockefeller, but he said, quote, Rockefeller sure is making me a lot of money. When he sent in the troopers, they destroyed a bunch of chairs, bunk chairs, and people wanted their chairs repaired. So he was making Dallas a lot of money with the repairs. The word is that in the time that they were going to the Smithsonian, Rockefeller came to visit Dallas, I guess out at his place, yes?
That's Smithsonian.
At the Smithsonian, okay.
And Hammersmith.
And then when Hammersmith, and apparently when Rockefeller shook Dallas's hand, he gave him $100 to pay for all those chairs. There's also a photograph taken by David Van, my photography mentor, when David worked at the Simple Record. And it is of Bill Clinton sitting in a bunk chair with Dallas and Amelia behind him. And that's a rather well-known and well-respected photo. There are other magazines and other articles that have appeared. It's a small town family that frankly has worldwide fame. And Amelia passed in 2007. And then in 2013, the Arkansas Living Treasure Award was bestowed by the Arkansas Arts Council. And Dallas himself passed away in 2016 at the very young age of 98. So what is left of the family legacy? Well, we have Leon and Donna Sutton, who after the video we'll show in a moment, we'll have an interview followed by a question and answer period. They are the last of the chair makers. They're still making them. And they continue to look for oak and go into the forests and find what they want, carefully find what they want, and make only the best of chairs. There's the Wiley Rouse Spring. Their ancestor dedicated a spring to the town of Bear. There's a little pedestal there about this tall with his name on it. And you can drink from it. I haven't had water from it. It's quite cold. And there are the streets of Bear, the history of Bear. If you'd like to know more, I recommend you go to the Garland County Historical Society and start perusing what is on the shelves there. It's a fascinating town. And there's also the legacy, which still lives. We see it in those of us who have bump chairs, those of us who might want to own bump chairs, and certainly in the handiwork of Donna and Leon as the living legacy. As a few weeks ago, someone found a bump chair in a thrift store in Benton and took it to Leon and Donna. And as soon as it came out of the truck, they carefully looked at the tops of the chair, the posts here, if you will, and quickly identified it as a chair that Fred had made. And then they turned it upside down and they looked inside the rockers to see if Fred had signed his name, which sometimes he did, sometimes he didn't. And they made a guess that it probably dated to the 1940s. And a few weeks from now, as they take their time and patience with using old wood and reviving what needs to be revived, they'll call that customer and say, well, your chair is ready. And they'll do that in the same way that their ancestors in France in the 1800s made chairs. They will do it the same way. And the way that their ancestors in Bear made chairs, they'll do it the same way that they were taught by Dallas and Amelia how to build and weave the chairs. And that's the only way that you can make a really good chair, one chair at a time.
Oh. Get the way to do it.
Just out of curiosity, how many people here have a bump chair? Ooh, look at that. That's wonderful. And I bet you like your bump chairs, don't you? Yes. Oh, you got 3? Okay, who has the most bump chairs? We've got a guy here with 3.
Can you count the ones I'm giving my kids?
Can you count ones he's giving his kids? How many?
8.
8 bump chairs.
6.
Oh, 10? There's 10? Yes, ma'am.
I got about 30 in my collection. I got them all over
You're
the house.
ineligible for this.
Oh, okay.
How many do you have?
I have about 14 dining chairs and a cabinet. I have a house built for my bedroom and my $90.
Oh, my goodness.
They were raised with a bump.
That's right. How many do you have, sir?
Around 10, that was my grandpa. I got 2 of the last ones he ever built.
Hey, that's Dallas's grandson down there, Pat.
Well, in a minute, we're going to see the video that the Arkansas Arts Council produced about Dallas when he was named the 2013 Arkansas Living Treasure, which is such an amazing recognition that so few people can achieve. But we're gonna wait just a second because Paul told me to stall a little bit. That's a little behind the scenes, something, but, how many of you actually met Dallas? This is an audience full of friends. That is wonderful. And, you know, he was a member of the Crawford County Historical Society, and we treasure that. Are we ready? Okay.
I was raised up with them.
Yeah, Eddie Lynch here, he grew up in Dallas and them.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I knew his mom and dad. I knew his grandma had the buggy.
That's great.
His mother, Randy, lived up there around the corner. And she'd come up there to the shop. Old man Fred Boone. And I can have a glasses up on top of the hill. And I lost my specs. Can't find my specs. She's all over the place. And they tell her that about every hour. Look on your head. Look on your head. I was raised up with it.
Homesteaded over there next to his sons. But I don't know how it has the parents or his relatives. And they've moved here from all over doing this. Now, Jack Berry is too. He knows. I'm only figuring out one thing, somebody else showed me how you find it. It was where they lived, it was supposed to be on the church. Until the Lord, I remember it. She was a big architect. She was
I was born.
it's so crazy. You know, Johnny Moore, they had to drive to the store in the house. Housing more. Johnny Moore, that was the first, or that is out before.
But I remember how it was. Dragged it.
I live up there in Ontario. That was right near the system.
Across the street.
Would you start from the beginning?
Once I get sound, I will.
Okay, thank you.
I got a student down at Lake
It's so much on the internet, it's just, I think treasure it out was fun.
I think so.
Paul, do you want us to start the interview part while you're working for that?
I'm gonna try one more thing.
Yeah, let me put it in.
Where you gonna be at?
I'm leaving it over here.
Oh.
Let me get your gun. This is gonna be a case of pass the microphone. Sir, with you. I'll ask you a question. And if you don't want to give the answer, you pass it to your husband. The microphone does not stay with your husband. Okay? All right. Give us a basic step-by-step process of how these chairs are made, please.
Start off with here.
I go out and, cut the logs, where I get a lot of logs from Harmonville Smith's Farm and, Joey Swindle Mount Ida. It's hard to get anything off the Forest Service anymore. And it used to be tie mills, and Grandpa Fredo used to do it all the time, but they put the tie mills down, so I bought me a sawmill, so I saw my own lumber up. I start from scratch, then I make chairs out of it. You don't know what you're gonna get, it's like a box of chocolate, you don't know what you're gonna get, you start cutting onto it and see what happens. But it's a long process, you just don't do one at a time, you try to turn a bunch of parts, then see what you got, and you start putting chairs together.
How long does it take to make one chair?
That's probably scary. It's hard to really say. You just don't sit and just do one, you turn a bunch of parts and let it dry. Certain times it's gotta dry.
Let's take an imaginary single chair, start to finish, weeks, months,
Well, you gotta let it dry for a while, about a month,
about a month.
yeah.
Okay.
You just don't do it in one day.
Right, and when do you warm it up? I saw the kiln, when do you put it in the kiln?
When I have everything turned, when I get all my rounds turned, I set them in the kiln, let them dry. It sounds like a bag of bones when you hit them together, then you know they're dry, and you get your posts, you hang them up, but then you get about half dry. Then you put them together, it's like, puts a lock on it, and it starts drying the rest of the way.
Is there a part of the chair you start making first and then second?
I always turn the rounds first. Make sure that,
Tell them what a round is.
around this is a round thing right here on the side, are down here. That's what you call rounds. Then the runners are what the rocker sits on.
Now, you're sitting on that chair. That didn't get there by magic. How did all that weaving get there?
My wife, she's what makes my chairs look good. She's the one that does the weaving.
Can you tell us about the weaving?
Well,
How long does it take to weave one chair?
takes me about 3.5 hours, the back and the seat.
Now, do you weave it all at once? Do you take a break?
No, he brings me the backs first, and I do the backs. And then I give him the chair back, and then I weave the bottom. And you have to put the splits in the water, soak them while you're weaving. They have to be wet to do it, yeah.
Does it have to stay wet the whole time? Everything stay wet the whole time?
Yes, yes. You have to finish it. You can't quit. Quit doing it. You can't answer a phone or nothing. You just gotta finish it.
What happened when you first learned?
Dallas and Amelia taught me how and come to our home and started weaving and put my bottom in and I cut my finger right off the bat with a hand-made knife. Dallas told me, he said, Donna, you can't get blood on there. So I went in the kitchen and got me about 10 Band-Aids and wrapped them around my thumb. But I did finish the chair. I did.
Now, when you weave a seat and you weave a backrest, do both those pieces go to one chair, or can you make a couple seats at a time and a couple backrests at a time? Like when you weave the bottom and the back, is that for one chair specifically, or can you make a couple of these at a time and then a couple of these at a time?
Oh, I usually do the backs first there, and then I can get at least 3
Can you,
a day,
a day?
and then when he brings me the chairs back, I can do at least 2, because it's rough on your fingers, it's hard, so it gives you arthritis real bad, so but I'm still doing it though.
What are all the different kinds of materials that you have used for weaving seats?
Bamboo
Bamboo?
that's what I use.
Did you used to do oak, the white oak?
Well, that was before,
Before.
that was a long time ago. Dallas and Freddie on started using the bamboo stuff. Della and Julie, they used to do everything by hand. I made Donna a jig where she put it back in there. She weaves the back, she puts it around. Then when she puts it together, I take it out the shop and I put the chair together. Then I bring it back to her. I made her a jig where she sit and flip it and do the bottom. It's real hard on your knees and stuff to be doing a great-grandma Judy. Their backs, you can tell, were humped back from doing so many chairs. You'll see that in this show or this thing.
Dallas said I was good for one thing, because he said I was an Indian and I could weave.
And which nationality of Indian are you? That's
Cherokee.
very good.
This is my oldest rocker. I picked up Young's Trade Post, made back in the 20s. You can tell by Grandpa Fred did this one, because he did all the special turning and everything.
Tell them about how woods changed, about the wood.
Yeah, we had to go to bigger because it's 3rd generation timber. We had to make everything bigger because people who got bigger, they ain't as small like they used to be back in the 60s and 70s. So they went to a bigger post and everything. That one there is my best one I got out of collection at Grandpa Bump. That's made out of walnut. And the chair I'm sitting in is what we do now, and the baby rockers, stools, and dining chairs.
We've heard about a John Lewis chair. Where did that get its
I got
name?
a story to tell you about that. Me and Dallas started to put chairs together. He's already his age, his lounge, not doing John Lewis. So I don't know why not. But I started doing them. We started doing them. And I'm finished to find out they're heavy. It's hard for me to pick a John Lewis up anymore. I know why Dallas didn't want to do them now.
John Lewis, Gar Lewis.
Yeah, Skinny Gar Lewis, they made it after Gar Lewis's dad, John. They used to break all the little chairs down. Johnny come up and talked to, Fred, Grandpa Bump, about building one of these. He didn't want to. Please sit you for 2 hours and do these plans on a John Lewis chair. See how big you want. He said, I want 2 of them, $7 a piece. Yeah.
You make a love seat that's kind of unusual. Tell us about the love seats.
I don't make those no more. People too big. The love seat that I got for a pattern is about 4 foot. Give one big person. When Grandpa and all them Grandpa Bump and all them used to be, everybody was small. Everybody had to work for a living then. Everybody got big over the years.
Was the love seat a standalone chair or a rocking chair?
It was a rocking chair.
These two don't look to me like white oak.
Which do that? That's walnut.
No, the little one and the one you're sitting in.
That's red oak.
That's what
I
I
use red oak. Red oak stays wetter and it's easier to work with.
Dallas didn't use anything but white oak, did he?
Now, we tried white oak here lately. When we got in it, we didn't have no good luck with it.
I remember Mr. Dallas tell me that he's getting hard finding white oak. He had to go further and further.
Right,
in town.
yeah. Grandpa Bump told me, bumpers come up one time when his chairs made, and they got a new guy at Mount Ida Forest Service. He wouldn't give him no more timber. So Grandpa Bump said, well, we don't hear from him. So anyway, bumpers must have talked to somebody, some young guy come down there and got Grandpa Bump. They went to the woods, he got whatever he needed.
Tell us about the chair that has the extra wide armrest. What was the purpose for that?
That, doctor used to write prescriptions on it to wear a flat arm on it, yeah. They have so many different ones that I pick up here and there. It's hard, when they've been in this over 100 years, you know, everything changes.
Right.
Like the turning on that one chair there, the turning on this chair there, and my turning, it's all different. It's the same thing, but everything just a little different.
Now, that chair on your right was made by who?
I was made by Grandpa Bump, yeah,
Okay.
back in the 20s, yeah.
What is his signature? Each one of you have a different signature to the way you make your chairs.
Uh,
What do you say? his
The
signature?
knobs,
The knobs?
yeah,
Okay. What is yours and Donna? What is your signature on
what you
yours?
see right here.
Right there?
Yeah.
Okay.
In Dallas, he can make more rounder than I can. I ain't got quite on the round part yet, so mine's kind of barrel fast. Grandpa Bump Fred would make chairs like with Donna sitting in. He did all the, what you call it, work.
Late.
Yeah,
Fancy turning.
yeah.
What year did, I have a question for Donna.
Got good luck.
What year did you and Leon meet?
79.
And you were married that year, right?
Yeah.
And you liked him because you both had common interests like camping, hiking, right?
Yeah.
When you two met and got married in those years, did you have any idea that you would be involved in weaving chairs?
No.
Had you seen it when you two were dating and those early years of marriage?
So, and then I stayed home, took care of kids and did my jobs, and it's like, but I never, don't ever say never. I not ever thought I would see this being like this.
You learned weaving from who?
Dallas and Amelia.
Okay. And how did you come to learn to weave the chairs? Just one day decide that you'd like to learn it?
Well, then his job went down and Leon went over to Dallas's and asked him if he wanted to start making chairs, and so that's where it started from. Yeah.
Did you volunteer?
No.
Tom, go ahead.
What's the future of the chairs?
The future, we're still making them.
I know that, Leon, but I mean, further down the road.
That probably gonna die out, I figure. They used to be a chair maker up on a Buffalo. I went to visit him and he died out. They just don't make them anymore. I get most people go to Cracker Barrel now and get one of those Cracker Barrel chairs. They're a whole different ball game.
Do you have an apprentice or a young guy working with you?
No, I'm 71. I stay in rehab a lot. I sit on my porch and rock. Every now and then I might do 6 or 8 chairs if I feel like it. Material comes in and stuff.
If you had somebody that wanted to learn, would you teach them?
I might go after 2 o'clock in the morning. I may not even do a thing for a week. You know, all of a sudden I get back into it. If anybody wants to do it, I don't think they ought to. I don't think they can make a living doing it nowadays.
What is about just a hobby?
It's more like a hobby, yes. It's a dying out hobby.
What's the hardest part of the chair to make?
The hardest part, I guess, turning the wood.
What's the easiest part?
When Donna does the weaving. She's what makes the chairs look good.
Tell us what some of your memories are of Dallas and Amelia. What kind of people would you describe them as?
Oh, they were good people. Dallas, he can be serious and he can be funny, and then Amelia, she was the same way. We hung out a lot. So, in the latter years. And then, but Leon can tell you more about them, but I got to know them there what time we were married.
How many chairs do you think have been made in the entire family's history in Arkansas? Take a guess.
I'll say at least 1,000. We got from coast to coast.
Right. How many chairs do you think each of you have individually worked on in the time you've been making?
We got, Don's done a lot of repairs, just weaving seats and stuff on stuff.
I got 4 books.
4 books of,
Phil.
really?
Repairs, yeah. I think everybody brought their chairs out of their barns when they heard that the weaving come back, so I did.
Can you tell us which states your chairs are in that you know of?
About all of them.
I don't know.
California, Florida.
Yeah. They either call us, they ask them to ship, and say, no, you tell me you're coming through. When we did the Arkansas Living Tribs, that really moved everything good. In '06, when I got with Dallas on the chair business, when we decided to do it, they said we do no advertisement or nothing, just make a few chairs. I said, okay, so I was in there, Ola, his sister lived in the house there by the shop. That old sign is out on the road, it was real dirty. She said, man, we got to clean that sign up, we get tired of it. So anyway, we was watching basketball, in the basketball, I went out there to clean it up. Dallas come in there next day and chewed me out from left and right. Said, I told you we wasn't gonna do no advertising. When did you clean that sign up for? I thought it did. Then about a week later, John Archibald comes up and does his thing on us. Oh, that broke the ice. Everything was fine then.
Is that true?
It's true.
And how do people reach you if they need their chairs repaired or if they would like to buy a bum chair?
I'm gonna tell you like my grandpa told you, you got a good project, they're gonna find you.
Yes, well.
Gotta add more to
Anyone else have any other questions to ask? Sure.
I might just say this. Mr. Dallas told me that when he was a young boy, he and his grandfather delivered chairs in a wagon and could throw the chairs as high as they could throw them up on that wagon to load them to bring them to town and take them out on Malvern Avenue and sell them to my grandfather. He had a general mercantile store.
Where was your grandfather's store? Where was your grandfather's store, sir?
You know where Brooks Hardware was?
Yes.
It's on the corner. Granny Brooks lived in the old yellow house next door, and the general store was on the other side of the end.
Where Peter's Paint is.
Yes.
I'm a Brooks.
Are you?
In the '60s, when Dowson took me in, they were selling the rocking chairs $35.
$35.
What does one cost today?
$400.
How did you know a bump chair if you came across it, say,
It's
shop?
got marble, you can see these marks on them. It's got, when we do it, I got patterns, patterns are over there, the nail. We put use the nail on that tells us where to make our beads and where to drill our holes at. Going fast around, can. That's original.
Did Ola ever help the chairs?
She used to wiggle them, yes.
Oh.
Ola was a sweetheart.
Question in the back? Yes.
I wanted to say that I grew up in the area,
Right.
knew Leon, knew Donald,
Yeah,
knew Linda Jane,
yeah.
and all of them. And they're one of the hardest working families that I ever known. And Dallas was excellent at wood, like he did,
Right.
taught me how to use the lathe, showed me how to use the lathe. He also raised bees. Dallas was an excellent beekeeper.
Right.
I used to go and help him, watch him working with the bees, and I learned a lot from that. And, I got good memories of Leon when he first got out of the armed forces in his Sunstone van.
Yeah.
He was pretty proud of that van. He had it all decked out in leather and drove around thinking it was hot stuff. It was good memories.
Oh, yeah.
Hard working people. It's good to see, old friends and family from a long time ago. And, people aren't like that anymore. You don't hardly meet people like that anymore.
What was your name, sir?
Stephen Wilson.
Stephen Wilson.
That's Mark's brother. Yeah.
Remember that shop got broken into several years ago?
Yes.
Did they ever find who did it? Were you able to recover any of the tools?
I think we recovered some of them. I think they recovered some of them. They, quite a bit of stuff they took out of there.
We're holding the chairs together, it's no nails.
Well, when you drive, every, a green piece of wood, you ever drill a hole in it around? It shrinks when it dries up. That's the trick of it all. We do put a little finish nail in it to hold it till it all completely dries. But if you ever, drill something that's green, then when it shrinks, it makes a lock. It don't stay round.
How did you power, did you have a generator? Did it run away?
The old time was an old hit and miss motor, had gasoline, water, cool. You'll see it, if you get the film going, you'll see the old hit and miss motor in it. Then when I built my shop, I got everything more electric.
We've got one from Wendy on Facebook. She says, I have 2 paintings by Mrs. Ola Bump done in 1987. My aunt and uncle, Fred and Mutt McClard, commissioned the paintings, which are both of a house once located on some of their property along Owl Creek Cutoff. Seems the Bumps were all talented. And her question is, are there a lot of Mrs. Bump's paintings still around?
Well, I don't know about that. She was a painter, though.
I think I'll leave.
Any more questions?
I want to show and tell.
Come on up.
Never mind. You mentioned lady online there.
Oh, you got one of those?
This is not hers. Just don't show them it. Yes. Yes. Okay. Oh, look at that way. Is this working? Okay. Could you hear me if I just spoke, or do you need? Yes. Okay, all right, we'll just try that, all right. Last night, I was texting with a son of mine, who's an artist. He's a project engineer and an architect for the Corps over in Little Rock. And he and I both have a special spot for Dallas Bump. And I told him I was coming today. I came a few weeks ago for the Majestic Hotel presentation, and he surprised me and showed up and sat down beside me because as an architect, he had interest in that as well. So I did my best to convince him that he should not go to work today, that he should come here and do this presentation with me because I'm excited about the fact that people are remembering Dallas Bump. And we have someone two people who can continue this, and we've got to get somebody else coming up. My sons are too old, but I find them and put them in there. So I text him this, and I'll share this with you. Tomorrow at noon at the library, a fellow who knew Dallas Bump, of my bump rocker, and knows not only this area but Bear, Arkansas well, is going to do a presentation like the lady who lived at the Majestic Hotel did last month. I was hoping you could come join me again. If for some reason you don't go to Little Rock, please put this on your list if you think you'd enjoy it. Okay, let me find it. Okay. John Archibald will give the presentation. Well, that name may not be familiar to you. He's the publisher, editor, writer is it the Ouachita magazine? Yes. The one with the, what is it? A section where we write in and guess the antique vintage item in the photo. He, like Mrs. Robbins, who was my son Kevin's 8th grade English teacher, he, like Mrs. Robbins at the Garden County Historical Society, is keeping our local stories and history alive. He's a very quiet, unassuming fellow. Mrs. Carr at Shangri-La knows him. She once told me that I like him. and wish that I could meet him and sit down there in the cafe with him sometime and share stories. I did meet him once at an antique store in Mount Ida. I have a friend that we go antiquing and flea ticking all over the place. And I introduced myself and said my name and where I was from. His reaction, spoken in a soft voice, was, "Oh yes, you wrote about your uncle, the fellow who was a barber." What? Just from hello, I'm Sue King from Hot Springs, Arkansas. Yeah, what a memory. Yeah. I want to go to Mark and I want to tell him about 2 bump rocker stories. One is how I found out about a bump rocker. It was through a nursery worker at First Baptist Church. Her name was Miss McCall, if anybody went to First Baptist.
Yes.
Dear sweet lady, dear sweet lady. And he's also going to talk about going to Bear, Arkansas, which we know because we would go to Brady Mountain to go swimming. And to the home in the workshop of Dallas Bump, the time that I went to order my bump rocker. And then I didn't tell him that story because he wasn't there in part of the story, but here's that story. Mrs. McCall loved to rock my son, Zach, the youngest, who's now a doctor in Texarkana, so can't get him up here to learn this trade. Maybe I should do this. My father had a fixie shop in the backyard, and so I used to follow him around. I might could do this. But anyway, I would go in the nursery to get my son, and inevitably she was rocking him. None of the other children, but mine. I had a rocker at home, and I guess he loved it. She knew that, and it soothed him. I don't know. But as the years passed, and he's now 10 or 11 years old, I'd still go by to say hi to Miss McCall. And she'd be in that rocker, and she kept insisting, "You need to go get a bump rocker for you and Zach." So he's 11. I'm about to turn 40. So the end of February, I called up the bumps, or I stopped by there, I can't remember. And I said, "There's a lady in the nursery, and she just insists that I need a bump rocker." And I said, "I turned 40 in about 2 days. So I'm going to treat myself with a present, and I'm going to order a bump rocker." Now, Miss McCall had warned me. He had a book. It's about this thick. 2 years wait to get a bump rocker. I didn't care. I just gonna get my name and pop. Okay. So I go. He was so friendly. Miss Bump was so nice. Invited me in the house. Sat on the couch. I flipped through that name. I mean, people from all over the country because they'd seen it in Southern Living, and they wanted a bump rocker like we locals wanted a bump rocker. And so he says, "Okay, but you know what? I think I kind of like you," because I got to tell him about my dad. He was 70 when I was born, and he was German, and he could fix anything. And so he said, "I think you'd enjoy this." He put me in the truck with my 11-year-old son, and we went to the workshop. We spent all afternoon. I saw a lathe like my father had. I saw animals. I saw all kinds of work tools. And it was just a walk down memory lane, and we bonded. I think the two of us bonded. And he was working on a chair. So I got to see one with the guts, and that kind of thing too. I go home, okay? 2 days later, I get a call, and the lady back there who was sitting beside me can tell me, can vouch, I did react. When she's working on a chair and repairing it, she says, after it gets repaired, she makes a call and she says, your chair is ready. That's 4 words I heard. 2 days later on my birthday.
Oh, wow.
Not 2 years. So, I get all excited. I just don't even hesitate. I grab my 11-year-old, off we go. We arrive out at the bump house, which, by the way, guys, that needs to be preserved as a museum. That house needs to be preserved. And my grandparents came from Tennessee, and they built their home in northern Louisiana. And it reminded me of it. You know why? Stevens were right here. Yeah, very, very low Stevens. And so I had to ask him, how did I get such a privilege of, that you did this for me in 2 days? He said, well, honey, anybody who has a birthday in March is special. Tell him when his birthday is.
It's in March.
March 4th. Yes. So I got my chair, treasured it. Every year for about 4 or 5 years, I sent him a birthday card and I did not sign it. I could tell he was a man of intelligence, curiosity, all those things. And I thought, oh, this would be fun. In time, I'll share with him, that I'm the one and, that he did this because of my birthday. Well, also in the meantime, I had this son who did this piece right here, who had graduated from Lakeside High School. He had been injured by a thoroughbred when he was 14 and was blinded. We're blessed. He got most of his eyesight back, otherwise could be an architect. And he couldn't go to college because he couldn't read. He didn't have half his vision. So a wonderful fellow named Roger Fox out at the time that then was Garland County, it's now National Park, read him his college entrance exam. There will be stars in his crown someday. And Kevin was able to go to college. And because he couldn't read, works literature and those kinds of things, he followed his passion, which was architecture and art, and had quite a successful career out there. He had one fellow named Bo Myers, who I put flowers on his grave just last week because he helped change my son's life too. And Richard Brown, Anzelette, took Kevin underneath their wing. And one of the things they taught him was, don't give away your work. Keep it in a portfolio. So Kevin will not part with anything. I come home one day when he's about 20, okay? And I can't get in the front door. I have a glass storm door. I could see into the window was open, and I thought somebody burglarized my house. So cautiously tell the other son to stay in the car, and I go and look. There's Kevin. He got as far as the wooden door, opened it, plopped down with his art pad that he had and his Cornor pen and ink, which has a diamond tip to it. So it gives little fine lines, black lines on this white paper. And he had, and I'm just not reading this, I'm just telling it, aren't I? And he had just totally rearranged my living room. Couch was on a different wall. End tables and lamps had been moved over by the piano. The room darkening shades and curtains had been pulled back, and a blast of sunshine was coming across that white sheetrock on my walls. And on that empty wall was a bump rocker, my bump rocker, and he was drawing it. And when you get in that right brain and you start drawing, you lose concept of time. He had no clue. He knew he got home around noon. I got home from teaching school about 4 o'clock. He got 4 hours, okay? Anyway, I wanted Mr. Bump to see his creation. Kevin wouldn't part with it. But in 1994, I led a group of students and adults to Europe. Kevin got to go. And I went to visit him in Fayetteville in the fall. And he said, Mom, I have something for you. And I found this today. Don't turn it over yet. It says, Mom and Zach, thank you guys for the best summer. Believe me, it was the best. I love you both. Oh, and enjoy my bug rocker and think of me when you see it. Kevin. This was in 1995. I want to show them, and I want them to see it too. This yeah.
Good, yeah. Yeah.
It has a prime position when you walk in my house in the entry hallway. There's Kevin's work. Kevin learned this from yeah.
That's beautiful.
Okay, I'm gonna try again on the video, so bear with me for a couple minutes. If it doesn't work on the projector, I do have an alternative, but you're all gonna have to turn your head to that small screen, so, oh, let's hope it works on the projector.
And if anybody, we've run a little bit over time, if anybody has something they have to leave for or can't stay, we understand if you don't stay with the video, but if you like to, please do.
Thank you. Yeah, John. You that way.
Done great.
Need water?
I'm starting to follow. Retired last year.
Right.
And the fire people were gonna give him one of those
Yeah.
chairs on the front porch, the tiger barrels. He said, to tell you what, you give me the money for what that is. I'm gonna
Fingers
give you
crossed.
one."
He did. I got some with the name. Yeah. Yeah, sure did.
No sound.
Leon, who is that?
Do what?
Who is that?
That's Amelia, when she was young. Yeah. Ruby's her first name. Maybe they'll get the sound going here.
Plan B.
Work there?
And of course, everything worked just fine when we tested.
Always good.
Okay, let's see. Okay, that'll work. I just need to turn it up, start it over.
Here we go.
house pump. 94 years old. I love to make sure, especially the blade work. I love to do the blade work. I don't know when I'll quit. I still work at it. Back in the 30s, I would call it there's probably about 5 or 6 other chair makers in this, say a 5-mile radius there. Most of them left during World War II times. My dad was the only one left there. So I just come back and joined him when the end of the war. That's my wife, Major Arl, started. In the south, it was Arl, in the north, it was old Ralph. She was right in, she went in with the rest of it, she done the weaving, and that was the first thing my mother taught her, and all the time she was telling her, say, you gonna be sorry you're learning. We had a son, and he had a motorcycle accident, and he lived about 2 years before he died. He hasn't got brain damage. But never could get anything done for him.
My mother died when I was 11. My dad, he couldn't take care of us 3 years, divorced anyway. Everybody's fighting who's gonna get who. One wanted my brother, the other one wanted my sister, and one wanted me, I guess. Anyway, now I'll just take all 3 of them, everybody shut up. Next thing I know, we're living with them.
He lived with me until he went to the Air Force. And then when he come back, he worked for Warehouser. Then when they went out of business, he wanted to make chairs, so I want to get Leon into it while I can still go.
I never dreamed I'd be doing this. Yeah, I make good money working for a sawmill until they shut it down. I figured, well, I had a chance, I might as well give it a shot. They don't chew me out anymore, but when I first started, he started chewing on me and stuff, and I just took it, and all of a sudden, I guess he thought he was gonna run me off, and found out I wasn't leaving, and things went smooth from then on. I think he had his way of telling me that, we'll see if I was really serious or not. And I've been doing it now for 6 years. I still got a lot to learn. Learning every day. We have no mass production on anything we do. Everything's just one piece at a time. Dallas, he does most of the turning while I'm doing everything else. Because that's about all Dallas. He'll be 95 in March, and he can turn real good. He's a good turner. He's about one of the best I've seen besides Grandpa Bump. He likes working because it keeps him busy, keeps his mind going. It leverages him up where he can move around a lot. If I ain't up here in 2 or 3 days, I got something going on. They said, Leon, I need something to turn and keep me going. I said, okay, I'll get some stuff together. I think turning is what keeps him going, where he turn the wood and everything. And watching me screw up where he can straighten me.
The first time they ever showed me how to split was, I used Aunt Amelia's knife, and I cut my thumb right off the bat. Oh yeah, I did. Dallas said, Donna, you can't get blood on that. He said, you're gonna have to, he said, get it stopping from bleeding. So I was like, okay. But that's what I like to do. I enjoy weaving. You know, Della and Amelia and Julia, all them did it. So, but I just want to carry it on. So I'm glad Amelia Dallas taught me how to do it. Then I wanna go over, under, over, under. That's how I keep my pattern.
This is a wooden pattern we use to make our chairs and everything. This is a regular rocker front post. We get a straight board, run it across the planer, straighten it out, then we take a finish nail, nail it in there, then we cut the head of it off. That makes a mark on the wood. That's how people know our chairs from anybody else's chair, because of the marks it makes.
These are marking whether up, the right, wrong, go in the stack. Yeah, whether they're all over.
There she is. That runs all the pulley system for the forge machine. The W drill's running over here.
I think the main thing with the chair is to make people sit if they know it's going to, think they don't know it'll fall down with it. And a rocker is just has to fit a certain way. Making the outside edge of the tenon a little bit larger, I'd say about a 32nd larger than it is back at the shoulder, is what we always do is the secret of a good chair. The rungs that goes in the chair are good kill dry. And the posts you put them on, we try to get it about half dry. You want to dry some so they won't crack. And you drive it in a half dry piece of wood, when it shrinks on down, well then you can't hardly take it apart.
Fun starting now with the beating. People don't believe we beat our chairs together like we do. We used a axe with the end of it cut off to beat our chairs together. You ain't gonna beat no factory chair with a hammer like this, I can tell you that right now. Got to know how to swing his hammer, because if you don't, you really bang them up. You just certain way. It took me about 3 months to kind of learn it, and still learning the best way to do them. Took time there above it. Like that. Takes a little bit of time. Yeah, there's been a lot of people tell me they want to learn to make chairs. A lot of people don't know what all goes into it. You gotta know how to read your wood, your grains, everything else. There's your chair. Looks like I got a little blood on it. Got it clean off.
Now, this is something to do in the back, but the bottom takes a little bit longer and more weaving. The more you do it, the faster you can get at doing it, because in Amelia and them, they used to have races. Who could do the most chairs, but they would time one another. And see who could make the chair the fastest, who could weave it the fastest. I could do it about an hour and a half, maybe a little bit faster. I used to say it myself, and I used to have to flip them, turn them over, get up and turn them. Yeah, so you made me this. I can turn it and it's not killing my back, but I like it a lot better. And I can get it done faster too. So, but I like it.
You sit back and you look at it, you're proud of what you do, and it's like a heritage thing, and there ain't that many people that does it anymore. I'm the fifth generation making chairs out of the bumps, ancestry. I'm just glad I was able to get with Dallas before something happened to him at his age and everything, and learning.
My dad never cared for training anybody else. For some reason, I don't know. What he said, they wouldn't do what he wanted them to do. He wanted his share made a certain way. He said, if you don't do it yourself, you don't know if there's any mistakes. So you gotta learn to do everything yourself. And that was his theory on making chair. So now then, Leon is gonna learn, and he's gonna carry the business on. He learns something every day, I learn something every day. You gonna learn something every day. If you try, you'll learn something every day.
Wasn't that a great program? We want to thank Leon and Donna. Thank you so much, John, Archibald, thank you. We want to thank you all for coming today. We wish you a very happy summer, because we won't be back till September, and we hope to see you then. The meeting's adjourned. Thank you so much.